Hello everybody, Casper here, and with Casper's back seat. You know, in the evenings I drive for Uber and Lyft, and I drive my constituents around all night. But during the day I like to interview movers and shakers here in Denver, Colorado. So I have a mover and shaker right here in my back seat. His name is Dickerson. He is the lead organizer for Together Colorado. So welcome, Will, to the back seat.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. And you know, I like to keep it simple. So I always ask one simple question. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's not to people. But it basically is the same question. And if you were king for a day, Will, what would you like to see happen in our community, in our world, or just in general? What would you like to do if you were king for a day?
Yeah, that's not such a simple question, Casper. I've been, really wrestling with this, being a community organizer in the community and seeing, all the different ways in which many of the communities I'm working with are suffering and struggling.
Right.
It's like there's a part of this question is deeply rooted in, providing housing, adequate housing for folks here in Colorado, affordable housing in these spaces, and also thinking about how do we really make sure that all people feel safe in their communities, safety around interactions between police and people.
Okay, but if you were king for the day, you could make those things happen. Mm-hmm. So what would you do to make that happen?
Yeah. So some of this is policy, some of this is I would want to create communities. I would create communities.
Okay.
Wealth building.
Okay, so places where people in the community could go to learn computer skills, learn maybe programming skills, just learn all types of ways that they can improve themselves so they can do better in life.
Mm-hmm. And also create systems that would make it easy for people to access those things as well.
Okay.
So I mean, I would argue that a lot of those things exist, that there are options and opportunities for people. And I think a lot of people would argue that, but are they very accessible for people?
You touched on a key word that I always use, and I tell people all the time, from my view, it's about access and knowledge. So I know there's all kinds of little nuances with a lot of different things, but when you break it all down, if you have access and you have the knowledge to know where to go to get things, you can become more successful in life. So, and in the community, we could easily argue that people in the community don't have access. Would you agree with that? Yeah. All right. So basically, just putting together, not putting together, but as a king, making those systems and those programs. Sometimes programs has a bad connotation because that means the government is doing something. And I like to say just access to ideas and concepts and workshops and things like that help people in the community.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say even more deeply, like creating communities that can do that for themselves.
Okay, so
self-sustaining communities.
So how do we do that?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I would not be doing the work I'm doing if we had figured that out.
Okay.
No, I mean there are some groups that are existing even today that are like really working on this concept.
Mm-hmm.
I think about Tulsa, Oklahoma. I want to say in the early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of Black Wall Street.
Yes.
But this is a group of folks that came together, predominantly African American. Mm-hmm. That in a 6-block radius had created the kind of wealth and the kind of economy that literally the dollar was passing through, 60 times before it was leaving.
Sure.
Some people have even argued 100 before it was leaving the community, and that the whole community was thriving.
Well, one of the speeches that Martin Luther King gave before he was assassinated, he talked. I think it might even been his last or second to the last speech. He talked about empowerment. Community, neighborhood empowerment, to where, yes, if we can get some help from people outside, great. But in the meantime, what are we doing in the meantime? to make sure that our people have access to food. I mean, gardens. I mean, just doing something productive while we're asking and wanting for equal rights and all these different things. What are we doing as a community to better ourselves?
Yeah, it's definitely like a both and conversation. Like, can we train people and teach people how to develop those types of communities,
right,
while also, like you said, having the policies and things that are in place to help people, to make sure that those things are able to carry out without a hindrance, that people have the access to be able
right,
to.
Right. And I believe we can, and it sounds like you believe that as well. So the $50,000 question is, okay, so how do we come together as myself being a politician, and yourself being a community organizer, community leader? How do we come together to make that a reality? Because I want it to be a reality. It sounds like you want it to be a reality. So how do we come together to make it a reality?
That's a good question. I think that we're in a space right now where dialogue is really important for people.
I agree.
Having deep conversations about what people want. I think that this interview, this conversation is like, all right, these are the types of important things.
Right.
I also think that we have to build trust.
Right.
Too. I think the communities we're in a space right now where even our spiritual spaces, we just don't trust anymore.
Right.
I'm also a pastor, and I wrestle with the idea that we live in a community and we live in a world right now where people don't trust each other.
Right.
And so, getting in dialogue with one another, getting in relationship with one another in that way, I think starts to increase the amount of trust that people have. That your self-interest is my self-interest,
right,
and vice versa.
Right. I have an acronym that I like to use, and as you get to know me, you'll find out that I always come up with these acronyms. And the last one I came up with is called TALKS. So TALKS is not just about talking, but TALK stands for something. And the T in TALK stands for training. So I believe we need more training as a community, and I believe the authorities need more training. So that addresses some of the issues going on with the shootings and stuff that are happening. And then the A stands for ask questions. I believe we jump the gun a lot of times. We don't find out the real deal, what's going on. We just assume that this and assume that instead of asking questions. We need to ask a lot more questions. I need to ask you more questions as a community leader. You need to ask me more questions as a politician to have that, to find out if there's any common ground going on. And then the L stands for leadership. I love the fact that I want to call you young because you're younger than I am. Maybe not by much, but you're younger than I am, and we need leadership from all levels. But I think that we have a lack, in my opinion, we have a lack of leadership going on. So we need a lot more Wills, a lot more Caspers, a lot more Pastor Dells and people like that are stepping up and leading as opposed to just complaining. And then the K stands for knowledge. And I think in the community, and this speaks to what you were just talking about earlier, is that we lack knowledge, and we need more knowledge. And knowledge is different than training, because training is you're train how to drive a car or something like that. But once you get that training, it's knowledge that you can take, and you can maybe drive a truck if you have a little bit more training, kind of thing. So it's something you carry with you. And then the S for me is spiritual. It sounds like you have the spiritual connection as well. So that's my talks. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like
awesome.
that.
Awesome. Well, Will, we're not going to be able to solve all the world problems in 10 minutes. But man, I really appreciate you taking the time, to talk with me and to share your thoughts as well. Is there any? How can people get a hold of you or check out your organization?
Yeah. So if folks are wanting to check out Together Colorado, we have a website, togethercolorado.org.
Okay.
You can also email me at will@togetherco.org as well.
Okay.
Right now we're working on an initiative called Yes on T. It's a part of our No Slavery, No Exceptions committee.
Okay.
We're working on removing the exception from slavery that's written in the Colorado Constitution.
Yes.
The national Constitution as well.
Yeah, and that's something I am also involved in and interested in helping as well on that issue. And they can also, I believe, have a Facebook page too, right? What's
Yeah,
your
we
Facebook
do have a Facebook page. It's just Together Colorado.
Together Colorado. Awesome, awesome. All right, well, thanks for hanging out in my back seat.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it wasn't too painful.
No, it was wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, we will see you guys on the next interview. We'll talk to you later.